Greetings, everyone. The fact that I have to do a disclaimer here speaks to the topic I'm about to discuss today. For as a Black woman, when I'm telling my story, I always get the feeling as if I have to apologize. There's always that sense of fear. How will what you say at this moment come back to haunt you? And that fear is not just coming from out of nowhere. It's coming from the fact that I live in a world where I, as a human being, or, as a woman, as a Black woman, must always try to tie up my loose ends. And so that spirit of fear, even though I resist it, is something that is very predominant in our community. So Black men and women are afraid. The truth is, the only people we are not afraid of is our own. So, regardless of your status as a Black person, I don't feel that sense of fear. Now, I'd be afraid to speak against a system that is unjust, speak against a leader who is unjust. But if I was speaking against my prime minister in Jamaica, because he's a Black man like myself, there's no fear. Typically, Black folks are not afraid to confront their own people, but we fear to do that to others. Now, there is a psychology behind that, and it's understandable. But we have to stop it now. We have to stop allowing others to silence us because they're not a part of our race. So, I've made my attempts over the year to express my views in spite of the fear. And so when we're talking about this topic today, I'm going to say that when we hear the term all lives matter, that is intended to evoke fear in us as Black people. When we are talking about our stories, we are asked to silence our voice or at least to modify what we're saying out of fear for those who we are telling the truth to or about. So all Lives Matter slogan is here from the time Black Lives Matter slogan became apparent. And the All Lives movement has been that resistance towards our movement. So it's a response to what we're saying. And if these individuals who say all lives matter really meant it to say that every human being deserves dignity, every human being have a right to be here, every human being has equal rights and opportunity, then there will be no problem with all lives matter. But the argument that all lives matter in conjunction to Black Lives Matter is something that we have to really take a careful look at. And if you are a white person, I'm going to tell you that that is what Black people have to deal with. For every time we come out to tell our stories, you try to silence us. You're very good at silencing us, and you don't have to yell and scream like some of us do. The angry Black woman story that you put out there, you don't have to yell and scream, because the other things that you do or the power that you hold is far more powerful to silence us. So I just want to tell you, all the folks who come out to chant all lives matter, I'm here to tell you that you're not going to silence us anymore. We have had enough. We have had enough. Now, you need to look at yourself and to understand that if you believe that all lives matter, then why are we having resistance out here in 2020? Obviously, You didn't believe your own lie. Because to paint that beautiful picture that all lives matter would then indicate that you would have done every and all things to ensure that that is true. You don't believe that all lives matter. What you're trying to do is silence us. You're trying to get us to go away like you do every single day of your life. Now, again, we're not just talking about Europeans or white folks as, they're known to be, as we are known to be black folks. We are talking about the ones who come out to remind us that all lives matter. See, the ones in this all lives matter are the type of individuals in society that we have to deal with. These are the ones who want to tell our stories. You see, the very story that we come out to tell is making many individuals uncomfortable. But these same individuals will then come out and tell our stories, the ones that we told. They will come back and retell it. And all of a sudden, gain some kind of glory, some kind of accolade, start being looked at, even by our own group, our own community, as the ones who come to save us. You see, all lives matter kind of people love to come out and make it seem like they're the ones who saved us. They use our own stories, they use our own words, they reclaim our own words and put it as their own. It is very typical of the all lives matter kind of people in the world. Well, let me tell my story, and perhaps one of you all lives matter kind of individuals might be able to retell it. As a black woman, it didn't matter how much education I got, it didn't matter how much work experience I had, I always had to bow down to a white woman. For she understood the power that she wielded. So if I was a student and she was my teacher, she would put me in a position where I always had to surrender, to bow down, to cower under her. Let me give you an example. When I was a student teacher, I was in a classroom with another woman who was the teacher of that classroom. And one day, one of the students threw up in the classroom and she told me to clean it. Now, it seemed kind of strange when they had, a janitor in the school. Forgive me if I don't know the political correct word of saying it now, but the person who is responsible for caretaker, I think, or maybe that's changed too because these things change over time. But the caretaker is in the school, and I was almost sure that he was supposed to do that, but she told me it was my job. She gave me paper towel and she told me to clean it up. And I cleaned it up because I thought if I don't do what this woman asked me to do, since she's the one who is going to mark my report, she's the one who's going to report back to the university where I'm attending. She's the one who's going to sign off to say if I meet all the requirements to become a teacher. And day in and day out, this woman tested me and pushed me and every other female in that school who happened to be of the mindset that all lives matter. These individuals caused me as a grown woman to cry for an entire year because the university where I attended, we didn't just go in the classroom, a block for a month or a 2 week period or not. No, we were there from the first day of school until the last day of school. That's how the university that I attended, that's what the requirements were. And for an entire year, myself and another person of a Caribbean background, um, we feared going there. Now, that's an example. Now, when I entered the workplace, we're talking about business, because I did 7 years in business, and then education. The nightmare got worse. These all lives matter kind of individuals often invite us as Black women in their feminist movement and ask us to support their cause, because that's the only time we're equal. When the cause is necessary for them to get what they want, all of a sudden they pretend that our lives matter. And so, as women, all of a sudden we are valuable when these all lives matter type of people, especially women, when they wanted something, they had no problems joining us. But when we want something, they come out and start telling us that our lives don't matter. So, if you're a lawyer or a doctor or a teacher, or regardless what profession you find yourself in, if I were to go out there and say, join me out here if you're a professional and you're working in an environment where you are made to feel less than qualified, less than deserving, then join me out here. And if the Black women in this country wanted to be honest and set aside fear, the street would be filled with Black women who have these stories, whether they're nurses or, whichever area they're in. All Lives Matter movement is just another example of people trying to silence Black people. Nothing more, no more, no less. The fact that we are talking is just the thing that upsets these individuals, because we are seen as less than human. We have no feelings. We should just nod or just smile and just carry on. And the power that these individuals feel that they wield in the world, they think that they're the only ones who silence us, or if they're not doing that, they're the only ones who should be privileged to tell our stories. So if it was a white woman who happens to be one of those ones with the all lives matter kind of mentality, if they were out here telling our stories like they do in the Black movie, somebody drop it in the comment section here for me. I forget the name of that movie. It's based on a book where, this white woman comes in to tell the story of these Black women in the civil rights movement period. I graduated on top of my class in many areas that I pursued. And I was never made to feel like I had anything to offer. When I first graduated from university, I went to work for the top accounting firm in this country. And the job that I was interviewed to do, when I got there, and it's a place, by the way, it's very formal. You have to wear stockings. You will have to wear a suit, whether it be a skirt suit or pantsuit. You have to be dressed to the nine, because there's no such thing as coming there, in casual clothing. And the first day on my job, I was taken to the kitchen and told that before I start doing my work, I had to clean the dishwasher. I had to make sure that air was clean. It was my job. And when I got there and saw that's what it was, I was very hurt. I remember going in the bathroom and crying. And another Black woman came in and she said to me, never mind, it's a great company and you'll move up. And I didn't have the privilege to say no to that. It was putting me in my place from the first day. And at that moment, I decided that I was going to do the best, you know, cleaning the best job that I could do, I was going to represent myself because I needed that job. I was not in a position where I could just walk away and say, to hell with you. I would have done that now. But at the time, I allowed fear to immobilize me. So as Black people, we're often put in a position where we are fearful. We are worried about losing our job. We are worried about, folks having the power over us to stop us from getting jobs anywhere else. We are fearful that, we'll say the wrong thing. We're always sanitizing our words. Because early on, we must understand, according to these individuals, that our lives didn't matter unless they said it. The All Lives Matter people always made it very clear that you do it the way I tell you to do it. You behave the way I tell you to behave. You speak the way you tell me to speak, or there's consequences. So as adults, as Black women and Black men, we're put in a position where we have to act like children because there's penalty to pay if we dare to stand up and say that I am your equal. In fact, you might have more education than some of these other ones who would try to put you in your place on a regular basis. Adult women going to work was a source of many of our frustration and stress and depression. Many professional women and men are treated like children, and we still live in a world that we have to question our right to stand up for ourselves, because many of us will be unemployed. Many of us will have a lot more to lose than gain. So you'll find some Black people who will just say, I'll just toe the line. I'll just silence my voice. I will not resist because I've got too much to lose. And therein lies the biggest problem. The time when we get to the point where we don't allow others to silence us or to push fear in us in such a way that we fear losing our home or losing our job or our career or whatever, you have to let go of that fear, because the all lives matter kind of persons, their life is no more valuable than yours, even though they want you to think that way. That passive aggressive nature in ones that might not come out and speak to you loudly or say words that they claim is not sweet or soft enough. They're the same ones who will take every opportunity to silence you, to take away your livelihood, and then they'll come out and deny it. Or when it fits their agenda, they will come out and tell the story about how much we are abused or how much they have privilege over us, and it's an insult. And so we can't ask these all lives matter kind of people to change. We have to change. And right now, when we have the momentum to push towards that change, we must not allow anyone with their passive aggressiveness to come and silence us. We cannot do that. We will not do that. We've had enough. So I can tell you stories after stories of times when I, as a Black woman, had to learn to be silent because I felt that there was something that I wanted, like that career where I was told to mop up the vomit on the floor and use a paper towel, where I was asked to come into school at 7 a.m. in the morning when nobody else is doing that, and where I was forced to stay until 6 or 7 in the evening, even though I was a single parent with my children. School is finished at 3, and that woman made me stay in until 4 o'clock, sorry, until 6 or 7 o'clock at night. deliberately forcing me to stay behind. She was a horrible person, but I pushed through it because I needed that motivation to let this woman know that I'm not going to let you shut me out. It was not easy to surrender my power to her because there are times when you're going to have silent forms of resistance, and there are times when you're going to have to learn to say there's something that I want, and in spite of all that is happening around me, I'm determined to get what I want. It's that type of determination that's going to push Black Lives Matter forward, not just to be in the street revolting, but creating change after that revolt is over. Black Lives Matter should not be a request or a petition. It must be a demand or letter of intent. It should not be a plea or a request. It is our given right as human beings to live at peace if you want to be at peace. But if you're warring with us, then we must be ready for the war. And one of the biggest things I see are problems in our midst is that we are creating leaders. We're always looking for a leader in our community. And every person should be prepped to be leader, to be in a leadership role. So when you go into a meeting with Black persons, you see individuals jostling for position. One person wants to be the leader, and what they should be doing is training everyone to be the leader, because that's the only way you're going to fight systematic racism, when every Black person in this world, in their community, is seen as a leader. And so when you set one up, when you remove one by any means necessary, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one to exhaust the process, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one. You can't get rid of Black people. You can get rid of one leader and silence the rest. That's how it's been done. And so while we're busy fighting and arguing with each other, you see Black folks coming under other Black folks' content where they're out here doing their part. I'm not out there in the streets marching, because I'm past that now. But those who are, I respect what they're doing. I respect the efforts, not just of Black people, but all peoples who decide to come together and understand that if you don't fight against this thing, it will hurt you too. It's not a matter of you doing it for me because you are my friend, or you got a Black friend. You're doing this because at the end of the day, if you don't stamp out this kind of thing, it's going to hurt you ultimately, because our children are growing up and they're getting more fierce, they're more educated, they're more determined. Our generation is different from our grandparents. And so, if you don't take it in hand and understand that Black Lives Matter, regardless of your feelings about all lives, because everything we do seems to have something to do with you. You manage to want to take everything that belongs to us and you take it as your own, including our words. We can't have anything to ourselves unless you take it and claim it as your own and present it to us. You just have this sense of entitlement when it comes to our lives. When it comes to Black lives, you feel you're entitled to it. So you're entitled to our thoughts, to our action, to everything that we do. We answer to you like we are children and you're adults. Those of you who are of the mindset that all lives matter. If you really and truly believe that, we wouldn't be where we are at this time. Your slogan is just coming here to provoke us. Your slogan is out here to insult us, because it's very clear that you don't matter our lives. So many of what we're going through, we go through that in silence. If we were to come out and tell our stories, it would be horrible. If Black women were to come out and tell their stories, it would be a lot of weeping for the women, Black women who hear other women's story, and those who have a heart, or those who have any decency. In 2020, things have not changed. So as a Black woman going to a company and giving my resume, and when I stepped outside, I realized that my resume, I gave the wrong one because I had two resumes, one for business, one for another thing. And when I stepped out of this prestigious building, and I returned to exchange it, when I went in there, my resume was on the floor. I go to another building and leave my resume, ask the woman if they're accepting resume, and she said no. And was when I was walking away, she said, not now or ever. When I go for an interview and, having a really wonderful interview with this person, and when I'm leaving, I get to the door, she calls me by my name, and I look behind, and she said to me, I just want to let you know that it's not about you, but we are just not ready. Of course, I understood what that meant. We're just not ready for a Black face in this institution, in this organization. And then you come here to tell us that all lives matter. You're hypocrites. And I'm going to say that of all the horrible experiences I've had in the workplace or in my school environment, it's always been from a certain set of women. And these are the ones who are posting on social media that all lives matter to camouflage the fact that they're racist, to camouflage the fact that they feel entitled, or they think that they're more privileged, or they're more entitled to our lives or our stories. We don't want you telling our stories anymore. Let me leave you with this example. I was given the task, along with other women of color, to do a Black, what do you call it, Black History Month celebration. And when the day came and the students came, we invited a drummer, we invited people to come, we prepared plays and skits and poetry and stuff to honor our ancestors' memories. And the kids behaved so badly. I'm not saying those teachers told them to behave badly, but they did nothing to stop it. And pretty much all that we planned just went through the door. The kids behaved so badly. The guest person we brought said she had never seen anything like that. And 2 weeks later, they decided that they were going to do a Black History Month celebration. And what they did, they put kids in tattered clothing and other kids whipping them and running through the auditorium. And they told stories about slavery and all of that, because guess what? From the very young age, they would have been sending a message to Black kids that you're still slaves, and you're sending a message to the ones who were not Black that this is what we did and this is how we mastered our craft. It was an insult to us as African people. So when you come out here to share your stories, if we start telling our stories, you're not going to like it. So I suggest that you take your All Lives Matter movement somewhere else, keep it into your own space, your own house, your own corners, just like you do anyway. When you're not speaking the politically correct words, you're actually saying the things that you need to say. Take your All Lives Matter slogan and take it into those environments and use it among yourself, because we are not going to allow you to silence us no more. No more. We got your number. We understand your game. And we're saying that we're not going to allow you to silence us anymore. I'm not editing this video. And as per usual, I do understand how what I say can impact someone or can provoke someone. But at the end of the day, there comes a time when we as a people have to stand up and demand our rights. We're not asking for it. We're not signing petition. I'm not signing any petition because that would indicate that I'm coming to another human being and asking permission to be and to live. That's not what I'm doing. We are at the table. We're sitting at this table as equals. And we're not asking your permission to be at this table because we didn't ask you to come in the other areas of our life and to present yourselves. We're not even asking you to be removed. We're just telling you that we have a seat at this table and you don't have a say. And we are going to talk until we don't want to talk anymore. We're going to tell our own stories. We're going to demand what is rightfully ours. And we don't care about your love. And we don't even care about your respect. You can keep all that to yourself. You can keep your movement to yourself. Because what we're doing right here and right now is standing up for what is ours. And that is our dignity. We're not going to allow you to silence us. You do that enough in everyday life, in our workplace, in our places of study, in our community. You do that enough. You do that enough. So you can continue doing that. And we are going to send the message to you that the day when we have to come to you and beg you for permission to live is over. Stay blessed, everyone.